Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the news. My name is Joe and it's Halloween, isn't it? There's no two ways about it. It's the 31st of October. It is, the spookiest time of the year, undoubtedly? Probably? I don't know. We've got loads of stories today anyway, and it might be getting a little bit spooky for Erik ten Hag because we've been hearing rumours that Jim Ratcliffe has made a decision on how he wants things to go at Manchester United and also how that will affect Ten Hag. And I'll be honest, it sounds like Ten Hag might be getting some things taken away from him. Let's just say that. We'll get into that in just a minute. There's loads of stories to get through today. Get your thoughts in the comments. Get your thoughts on Ten Hag. Get your thoughts on all the ballon'dor stuff last night. Get your thoughts in as well on this Marcus Rashford story that's been doing the rounds. There's loads of stuff going. It feels like it's been, when United lose a game, especially a big game, it just becomes open season on United. You can say anything you want. Let's start with this Rashford story because it's Marcus Rashford risks the wrath of Erik ten Hag as the underperforming Man United winger heads out clubbing straight after a humiliating derby defeat at Old Trafford. This is in the Mail. It was also in the Telegraph as well. Marcus Rashford has risked the wrath of Ten Hag by going out clubbing just hours after Manchester United's defeat in the derby at Old Trafford. Rashford put in another below par. Afterwards, the England star headed for top Manchester night spot, China White, to celebrate his 26th birthday with friends and family in a VIP area. It's understood that United teammate Terrell Malacia was also there. He's right in with Rashford, isn't he? Do you remember the pictures over the summer where they were both in like LA together? And you're like, they've only known each other about 3 months and they're just best mates by the looks of things. Either that or Malacia ain't got any mates and Rashford just sort of took him under his wing. But it seems like there's a good relationship there. The party is said to have finished around 3:30am, although it's unclear if Rashford stayed out that long. He trained with the rest of the squad at Carrington on Monday morning. Sources close to Rashford described it as an intimate, planned celebration for his birthday. We've all had a few of them, and in a private area of the club, maybe not there. But we've all, some birthdays, it's just an intimate celebration, isn't it? Maybe just yourself there. We've all had that. It remains to be seen if Ten Hag takes a dimmer view of the situation and considers disciplinary action against the player. What would the disciplinary action be? I just think stories like this are just like, so what? Just scroll up a little bit again. What does it say there? It says, the 26th birthday with family and friends in a VIP area. Okay. Like, I get it that United lost and all this and all that, but it is his birthday. He is going out for his birthday. He also already has to go out on a Sunday night because he's a footballer and he can't go out Saturday night. We don't even know how long he was there for. He turned up on time to training on Monday. It doesn't say that there, but it says it in the Telegraph article that he was on time. What's the issue? Like, it's just Tim Sykes, non-story. I agree. Completely agree. I just think it doesn't matter. Marcus Rashford went out for his birthday. Fine. It's a shame United lost. It's a shame he's not playing very well at the moment. But I don't see it as a problem whatsoever. If he goes out, who even knows how long he was out for? Who knows what he did? Did he drink? How much did he drink? We don't know. Like, we just don't know any of it. It's not an issue. If you turn up for work on time, you put the work in the training ground, that's what matters. This idea that, a lad in his mid-20s isn't allowed to celebrate his birthday because he's lost a game of football, to me, is pushing things a step too far. I understand you don't want to be out, stumbling out of a nightclub, being late for training, affecting your work. I get that. I agree with that. But this idea that, let's be honest, Sunday night as well. How big a night is Sunday night in China White? Do you think it was absolutely popping off? Maybe it was. Don't know. I'm out of touch and I've never been in China White, but Sunday night's hardly the biggest night in the world, is it? Come on, let's not worry about that. People saying, it's media crap. The kid can't have a life and be with his family. I completely agree. I don't think there's an issue with this whatsoever. And also, happy birthday to Marcus Rashford, more importantly, and happy birthday to Dennis Irwin. Both of their birthdays today. A little spooky birthday. 26 years old, Rashford. We just need him to turn it around this season, don't we? That's the main thing. Let's move on then. Personally, I think if you're offended by that, I think you're looking for something to be offended by, I would say. Right, Ten Hag. This is another one I want to get into because you may have seen this article. Man United players are beginning to question Erik ten Hag's tactics after he made them sit in silence and listen to Man City's celebrations following derby defeat. Man United players are beginning to question Erik ten Hag's tactics, apparently, for the first time. So they're not questioning it before, following their 3-0 derby defeat against City on Sunday, according to Report. That's a weird sentence. United suffered their 5th defeat. They were by far the second best club at Old Trafford and don't seem to have any clear direction. And now players are reportedly starting to lose faith in the manager's ability to turn the fortunes around. Now, it's worth pointing out that this article comes originally from The Sun. So we see it there from the Daily Mail. And the track record, I mean, historically of The Sun is woeful. But even in recent months, isn't it in The Sun where we were told that Sheikh Jassim would be announced within weeks? That Sheikh Jassim had won the battle to win Manchester United, to buy Manchester United. We saw that from The Sun recently. We've seen loads of things from The Sun recently that are just provably false. Not just like, oh, well, did it happen, didn't it happen? No, just you've said one thing's going to happen. It doesn't happen. It is a lie. I just think, what does that mean? The players took exception with Ten Hag's decision to leave Reguilon out of the team. Which players? Not all of them. Obviously, not all of them did. I'm sure Victor Lindelof didn't mind. So you think, well, if you're not naming people and you're not saying how many players, then is any of it true? I just think, again, it's just a non-story. You know, some United players weren't happy with losing to City. Of course, good. They shouldn't be. And some players didn't want to get dropped. Reguilon presumably didn't want to get dropped. Maybe Marcus Rashford would think, oh, I like having a proper left back behind me because I got a better relationship with him. But I just think this whole thing of he's starting to lose the dressing room and they didn't like being made to listen to City celebrations. Good. You shouldn't. That's why he did it. He made you sit there and listen to City celebrating down the corridor. It's hearing City's fans singing inside the stadium to make you feel shit for losing. That's what needs to happen sometimes. You need to remember that there are consequences for losing football matches. And I don't think that's a problem whatsoever. Paul Gill says, I stand with Ten Hag. We always change managers, thinking things will change when the owners are still there and we end up going round and round in circles. Now Doherty said, really wouldn't mind if you never read out a Sun/Mail article again. The problem is, people report on these things, people comment on them on Twitter, people comment on them generally, and it becomes a narrative that surrounds a player or that surrounds a manager. So sometimes it's worth putting them in to defend it or to push back against it. Because if you don't, eventually everyone just goes, oh yeah, and all the players hate Ten Hag, don't they? I don't remember where I heard it now, but I'm sure, yeah, I definitely read it online or in a paper somewhere. And you think, well, actually, what is it based on? And how reliable is it? So I think sometimes it's worth pointing something out and saying, either this is nonsense or I don't believe this is true or, you know, here's my take on this. Because otherwise, narratives build sort of almost subconsciously at times. And then next time you go, you know, you'll see an article written by someone and it'll say, you know, this is following on from reports a few weeks ago that people weren't happy after City, and it almost becomes just part of what's written. And like people will use these articles as foundations to write the next article in 2 weeks' time, and you go, oh yeah, they weren't happy after City, were they? And they're not happy now. They must be really unhappy. And actually, the foundation that article is written on in 2 weeks' time is nonsense. So I think it's worth calling it out in the moment sometimes. This is the big one then. Let's talk about Jim Ratcliffe, because he's obviously coming in. Well, we are led to believe coming in before the end of the year or around the end of the year, and to take partial charge or to take charge of the footballing side of things, or to take some control of the footballing side of things. The reports are it's going to be Jim Ratcliffe, it's going to be Dave Brailsford, and it's going to be Joel Glazer in charge of the footballing direction at Manchester United, with obviously a CEO, a sporting director underneath that, and then of course the coaching staff, the scouts, and Erik Ten Hag. He obviously has a decision, or somewhat of a decision, to make on Ten Hag. Now, the reports are that he said he wants to keep Ten Hag as manager. However, they want to take away some of his control of the transfers, which surely makes a lot of sense. Now, if we're just sort of going through this article, the British billionaire is ready to rip up the club's strategy to reduce the coach's involvement in decisions, with a buyout set to take place within weeks. This is from iNews, which is part of The Independent. It says, so Jim Ratcliffe's faith in Erik Ten Hag remains seemingly unshakable despite United's recent results. It talks about a deep audit that's going to take place at Manchester United, what's working, what isn't working, and a look as well at taking some of that transfer control away from Erik Ten Hag. The question with that is, who gets it? Because, yes, I agree, and I think most people agree, giving the manager, especially a manager that's never worked at the top level, I know he's done very well at Ajax, and I think his CV is very good, but he hasn't worked for a Bayern, a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, even a PSG or a Juve, someone that is used to dealing with the biggest, best players in the world. He hasn't done that. So the idea that he would just automatically be a fantastic scout / wheeler dealer in the transfer market makes, it's obviously one that isn't necessarily going to be true. And we're seeing that with some of his transfers. I think Antony's one that you can look at and think maybe the quality's not there. So then you need someone else to do it. So who is going to do it? Because at the moment, I look at the last 10, 15 years pretty much of United scouting, and I think I don't really have much faith in you either. When's the last time an unknown player, or not even an unknown player, but a player that wasn't, Twitter didn't pick 2 months earlier, joined Manchester United? I don't even, Dan James maybe? He was a bit of a left field one, and he left a couple of years later, having been slightly underwhelming. Chicharito, I think, is the last one. We've talked about this before. I think Chicharito Hernandez is genuinely the last player United bought that wasn't an obvious transfer that turned out to be successful. Maybe you can talk sort of Rafael da Silva, maybe, put him on that list. It's so rare, it's so few and far between. And when you look at other clubs that are successful over the last number of years, I mean, look at Liverpool, for example. Firmino, was it Hoffenheim they got him from? I know he was fantastic for them. Salah from Roma is one of the best transfers in Premier League history. He was someone that was a 10-goal-a-season guy at Roma. All of a sudden, he becomes a 40-goal-a-season player at Liverpool. There are certain transfers. Even Fabinho from Monaco, yeah, he was, he'd won the league there, but it was still one of those, let's take a bit of a risk. Robertson from Hull. There are these players where you think, you can look through that team and think, Christ, they've done well there. And you look at United's team and, Bruno Fernandes is probably the closest thing to a bargain we've had. And even then, it was 45 million, 50 million. So I do think that we need someone that isn't just the scouting department or the current scouting department to pick players. Maybe that's where Paul Mitchell comes in, someone that has got history as a scout, has got a history of scouting and negotiating for players. But I do think it makes sense that Jim Ratcliffe wants to take away some of Ten Hag's power in the transfer market, but we need to replace it with someone better. That's always my point. Yes, take it away. Who's better then? Who's coming in that's going to do a better job? Glenn says, Whispering Eye have papers been signed that I don't know about. I don't know what that is. That referencing someone else in the chat there? I'm not sure. Lee Padden says, Paul Mitchell seems like he had an eye for a bargain and he's been rumoured. I wouldn't be unhappy with him coming in. At least he's got some level of success and a track record. He's been at multiple different clubs, signed very good players, slightly under the radar players from multiple different clubs, and done that consistently wherever he's been. That makes sense. Other people that work at Man United go, what's your track record? And if you want more on this, look at the Paddock podcast we did yesterday. We sort of broke down Richard Arnold's career, John Murtaugh's career so far. What have they got to fall back on in terms of reputation and what have they actually done in the game? And the answer is not that much. And that doesn't mean you're terrible. And you look at people like Pep Guardiola, when he got the Barca job, what had he done in football? Not that much. Doesn't mean he's bad. In fact, he's gone on to be one of the best managers of all time. But the odds of that happening are so few and far between. You would generally think, let's go for someone with a good track record rather than one with no track record. Anyway, let's wait and see exactly who takes over from Erik Ten Hag in terms of United's transfers. The other one, obviously, last night was the Ballon d'Or. Messi winning again. What was it, an eighth Ballon d'Or? He's all right and he's done well. I think, as much as it pains me to say it, I think Haaland probably deserved it, but maybe Messi was more influential in actually winning those big games. Haaland went missing, didn't he, in those later stages of the tournaments. What's interesting, though, look at this one. Trophy Kepa there. Who's that? Number 9. Only Rasmus Højlund. This is like Ballon d'Or Juniors, isn't it? This is like the little kids' Ballon d'Or that they do in a ball pit just at the side of the main Ballon d'Or. Get all the youngsters in, put them in a ball pit, and we'll give out a little plastic Ballon d'Or for all of them. Rasmus Højlund's finished 9th in the little babies' Ballon d'Or. Is that a joint 9th? Has he finished joint 9th there? So obviously he's got the same amount of votes as someone else. He's won the little baby Ballon d'Or. Who actually won it? Do we know? The baby Ballon d'Or. Was it Bellingham? Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Another one, ranked number 23 in the official full Ballon d'Or is Andre Onana. He also finished 6th in the Lev Yashin Award, which is this sort of specific goalkeeper's Ballon d'Or award. Finished 6th there, just 2 ahead of Aaron Ramsdale. Fucking how? Because he did all right for Arsenal in a season where they won nothing. Although, to be fair, did Inter win anything? I'm not sure. At least they got to a Champions League final, and he was probably man of the match in that Champions League final. But yeah, there you go. Andre Onana coming out of his bad form, it seems. He's had a couple of good performances. I thought it was Copenhagen, wasn't it, where he was very good, or sort of under the radar, and then against City, couple of times where he looked slightly shaky, but no big mistakes and some excellent saves. That diving save from Haaland in particular, the one where he comes out and closes Haaland down, the ball hits his shoulder, stopped it being an embarrassing score on Andre Onana. I thought he did really well in that game, and it's good to see as well that he's coming back into some form. But that is going to be all from us. We'll be back later today as well. Make sure you check that out, 4 o'clock for the next video. We're also looking ahead to the game on Wednesday, obviously Newcastle. The preview came out last night, so if you haven't seen that, make sure you check that out. That is going to be all from me this morning. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in a bit.